What's eating you? Psychology Eats is here to help you. What's eating you? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Psychology Eats. So, what's eating you? Well, today, as you can see from the title, I am giving my reaction to DMX. DMX had an overdose, a drug overdose, in the past couple of days ago. At the time of this video, of making this video, he was in a vegetative state, and according to the news, he had very little brain function. And so his prognosis at this point is very poor. And so the question that I ask in my in the thumbnail is, could his overdose have been prevented? And so first, let me give a little bit of history. If you don't know who DMX is, he is a rapper that came on the scene in the 90s. He's a legend to hip hop. And not only is he a performer, he is a writer. To be a all around rapper and considered a legend, I think you have to be a writer. You have to be able to write your own lyrics, and he did that with the best of them. And so, not only was he a writer, a performer, he also is an actor. And so, he's acted in several different movies. And so, I would say he's just an all round entertainer. But, and however, he has struggled with addiction. And we've seen him, if you followed his career, if you love hip hop like I love hip hop, you know over the years, through watching interviews with him, that he talked about his addiction and he talked about struggling with his addiction. About 7 years ago, Alana, I always mess her name up, she tried to fix his life. And he ended up, basically, he cursed her from A to Z. It went so left. That interview went so bad. But I think at that time he was definitely in his addiction, and she could see it, and she called him on it, and he didn't like it. Also, he has a ton of kids. He has a lot of kids, and his kids also were in. I think when he did the "Fix My Life" episode, a few of his kids were in that, and they really called him on how he had been to them as a father. So if you know anybody who has struggled with addiction, you know all parts of their life falls apart. Every other aspect of their life falls apart because the addiction becomes the most important thing to them in their life. So, could his overdose have been prevented? Absolutely. If you know about relapse and sobriety and addiction, you know that sobriety is definitely possible. And he had, and I believe DMX had times in his life where he was sober. And so he had his sobriety. Usually people get sober when they go to prison, or they get sober if they decide to go into a rehab. And I believe he's done all of those things. And so he has had periods in his life where he was sober. I think he was on Wendy about 6 months ago, prior to his overdose, and he appeared to be sober. But we know that that is something for people who are in their addiction. We know people have times and moments, and you can have years of sobriety, and then a relapse will happen. And relapse can happen for various reasons. I don't know what DMX triggers are that send him back into relapse. But I don't know if they even shared what drug he's was his drug of choice. It sounds like, maybe like an opiate, because an opiate will usually send you into an overdose, right? So it was probably some sort of opiate. And so because of that, and he has a health issues. He's an asthmatic. He talked about that in some of his interviews. And so with the overdose, asthma, and years of drug abuse affects your organs negatively. And so, as a result of the overdose, he had a heart attack, allegedly, according to the news reports. And so, that is pretty much what happened to him. But is sobriety possible? That's the message I want to get out with this video, is that sobriety is possible. And for those people who are struggling with their addiction, know that sobriety is possible. And DMX, in many videos, I'm going to try to put some clips in of him just talking about his relationship with God and his struggles, and how important it is if to get sober. People get sober in many different ways, and I know for DMX, he depended on God for that, and he leaned on his relationship with God and prayer, and that is what I believe even sustained him for as long as he has been abusing drugs and been able to survive it. So here's a treatment plan, and this is for anybody who is struggling with addiction. Relapse is oftentimes part of the process of being sober. So you can be sober, and the way to not relapse is to have a strong support system. And so I believe in the 12 steps of NA and AA, because the very first step is to recognize that you cannot beat this addiction without believing in a higher power. And I know for DMX, he believed in that higher power to help him and sustain him. But we all fall short, and especially if you are dealing with an addiction. So for him, God willing, if it's God's plan that he's going to survive this, that he will be able to really grab onto sobriety again. And if not, then I hope that for the sake of generations that he produced, that they'll know how strong he wanted to be and how he wanted to live without this addiction, and how strong addiction is. And just, honor what he gave to the music industry. And he gave the music industry some bangers that we will never forget and that will forever be played for people. That he is a legend in hip hop, in acting, in as a writer and creator of music. And for that, we salute you, DMX, Earl. I know I do. So I don't care if someone relapses a million times on that 1,000,001 attempt at sobriety, and that is probably, hopefully, maybe the time that you will stay sober until you leave this place, until you leave this earth. And that's what the message is. So prayers up for DMX, and thanking him for everything that he has contributed to the world of hip hop. Thank you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.